Imagine a life where your birthright isn't freedom, but a debt you didn't incur. A debt that shadows your every breath, dictates your every move, and ties you to a master from whom there is no escape. A debt so immense, so deliberately unpayable, that it enslaves not just you, but your children, and perhaps even their children after them. This isn't a story from history books about chattel slavery in distant lands. This is happening today, right now, to millions. This is the brutal reality of the Indian debt slave. In India, this system is known as bonded labor, or Bandhua Mazdoori. It's a form of modern slavery, insidious in its legality, cruel in its execution. At its core lies a simple transaction. A desperate individual facing starvation or calamity seeks a small loan. Perhaps a father needs to feed his family during a failed harvest. Perhaps a mother needs medicine for a sick child. The sum is often paltry, a few hundred or maybe a few thousand rupees, but the conditions attached to this seemingly benign aid are anything but. The lender, often a powerful landlord, a brick kiln owner, or a mine operator, offers the loan. In exchange, the borrower promises to work off the debt. On the surface, it might sound like a fair exchange, labor for a loan, but the reality quickly descends into a nightmare. The interest rates are astronomical, usurious to the point of absurdity, sometimes 100% or more, compounding daily. Illiterate borrowers are given no proper accounting, no receipts, no clear terms. The ledger is kept by the lender, and the numbers are always against the worker. The original loan, no matter how small, begins to balloon, becoming an insurmountable mountain. The worker becomes trapped, his labor a worthless currency against an ever-growing principal. This isn't just poverty, it's a deliberate mechanism of control, turning human beings into commodities. The work itself is designed to extract maximum value while offering minimal, often no, remuneration. Imagine waking before dawn, often without proper food, knowing your entire day will be spent in relentless, back-breaking labor. For those trapped in brick kilns, it means endless hours under a scorching sun, mixing clay, shaping bricks, carrying loads that would break an animal. The dust chokes their lungs, the heat blisters their skin, their hands are raw and cracked. Children, some as young as 5, are forced to work alongside their parents, their small bodies strained beyond endurance, their future stolen before it even begins. In stone quarries, the air vibrates with the roar of machinery, or worse, the dull thud of manual chisels chipping away at rock. Hazards are everywhere, falling debris, crushing machinery, fine dust that slowly destroys the respiratory system. There are no safety regulations, no protective gear. Accidents are common and often fatal. For those in agriculture, it's tilling fields under a searing sun, planting, harvesting, every muscle screaming in protest, often with little food or water. Women are often forced into domestic servitude, facing not only endless chores, but also the constant threat of sexual exploitation and abuse. The labor is always manual, always intensive, always dangerous, and always unpaid in any meaningful sense. Their sweat and blood become the very foundation of another's wealth. The cage of bonded labor isn't built with physical bars, but with an intricate web of control and coercion. The initial debt is merely the bait. Once trapped, the rules are simple. You belong to the lender. Beyond the usurious interest rates, there are fabricated charges for food, for shelter, for tools, for minor infractions. Any attempt to question the figures is met with threats, intimidation, or outright violence. The lender often seizes identity documents, voter IDs, ration cards, stripping the individual of their legal identity in their ability to prove who they are or to seek help. Movement is restricted. Workers are often held in isolated camps, unable to leave without permission. Communication with the outside world is monitored or cut off entirely. Physical abuse, beatings, and even torture are used to enforce obedience and to ensure no one considers escape. Women and girls are particularly vulnerable, frequently subjected to sexual assault, further cementing the family's helplessness and shame. The most insidious rule is the inheritance of debt. When a bonded laborer dies, the debt does not die with them. It is automatically transferred to their spouse, their children, their grandchildren, weaving generations into an inescapable tapestry of servitude. This intergenerational bondage ensures a constant supply of cheap, exploitable labor, perpetuating a cycle that is almost impossible to break from within. While the physical suffering is evident, the mental and emotional toll of debt slavery is perhaps even more devastating. Imagine living without hope, without a future, without dignity. The initial despair slowly corrodes into a profound sense of helplessness. Every day is a repetition of the last, a cycle of relentless labor and dwindling hope. This constant psychological pressure leads to severe depression, anxiety, and a pervasive sense of worthlessness. The bonded laborer is systematically stripped of their agency, their self-respect, and their very humanity. Children born into this system grow up knowing nothing else. Their minds are molded by the omnipresent fear, the constant abuse, and the stark reality that their destiny is already written, a life of servitude. They internalize the belief that this is their fate, that they are somehow less deserving of freedom or happiness. Attempts at escape, though rare, are met with brutal force, serving as a stark warning to others. This further entrenches the sense of futility, breaking the spirit and crushing any nascent spark of resistance. The trauma is not just individual, but collective, passed down through families, creating wounds that run deeper than any physical scar. Their minds become as much a cage as their physical existence. Life as a debt slave is a short, brutal affair. Malnutrition is rampant, leading to weakened immune systems and susceptibility to diseases. The physically demanding work, coupled with inadequate food and rest, wears down the body rapidly. Tuberculosis, silicosis, anemia, and various other ailments are common. Injuries from accidents, broken bones, severe cuts, head trauma often go untreated or are crudely managed, leading to lifelong disabilities or infection. There is little to no access to medical care, and if there is, the cost is simply added to the already insurmountable debt. The result is a drastically reduced life expectancy. Many die young, their bodies broken, their spirits crushed, never having known a day of true freedom. And when they die, the debt, as we know, passes on. For those who survive, the exit is a mirage. India has laws against bonded labor, passed in 1976. They exist on paper, but enforcement is tragically weak. Rescues are rare, often requiring intervention from NGOs or proactive government officials, a dangerous, difficult undertaking that can put both the rescuer and the rescued at risk. Even if freed, the former bonded laborer faces immense challenges. No money, no home, no job skills beyond manual labor, a history of trauma and the stigma of their past. Reintegration into society is a monumental struggle, highlighting that simply freeing someone is often just the first, smallest step. This isn't an isolated problem, relegated to obscure corners of history. Bonded labor in India continues to thrive, fueled by systemic poverty, illiteracy, caste discrimination, and the insatiable demand for cheap labor. It is woven into the very fabric of our global economy. The bricks that build our homes, the spices that flavor our food, the clothes we wear, the precious gems we covet, all may have passed through the hands of someone trapped in this invisible cage. The estimated number of people caught in this web varies, but conservative figures suggest millions. Millions of human lives reduced to economic units, stripped of their most basic rights. This modern slavery persists because it is hidden, ignored, and often too inconvenient to confront. It thrives in the shadows of our global supply chains, silently contributing to the goods and services we consume every day. Recognizing this reality is the first step towards dismantling it. It demands an understanding that our interconnected world means that the suffering of one can, directly or indirectly, touch us all. The story of the Indian debt slave is a stark reminder of humanity's capacity for exploitation and resilience. It is a story of stolen lives, intergenerational suffering, and the relentless pursuit of profit at any human cost. It tells us that freedom is not a given for everyone, and that for millions, life is a perpetual prison of debt and despair. By understanding the mechanisms of this injustice, by shedding light on these hidden horrors, we begin the long, arduous work of challenging its existence. The chains may be invisible, but the suffering is agonizingly real.